Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
Doing all right. Thanks for joining me.
No, no problem. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me on. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
you're from Southend in England?
Correct. Yeah, Southend, a little seaside town just outside of London, just
Yeah,
east
I
of
was
London.
reading up on it because
Yeah. All right.
I
Yeah.
don't know too much about,
Yeah.
England
Fair play.
or I know
Fair
like
play.
London, but
Yeah. Yeah. Fair play.
no, I read that like Oasis and George Michael filmed music videos there and
Yeah. 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 At our local, we've got a theatre just down the road, and they all shot videos there. So it's awesome. So
yeah, and then Nothing But Thieves originated from there.
yes, yes, and the horrors. So yeah, we've had a few
Yeah, so there's
cool
some
bands.
music history there.
Yeah, yeah, we've got some musical history here. Yeah, yeah, so it's quite cool.
So would you
It's got
say
a nice vibe. So
oh, I'm sorry?
um, it's got like a South Bend's got like a nice musical vibe. So
Oh,
you
that's
can feel it in
cool.
the air. You can kind of feel it when you kind of go out and stuff. You can see there's some sort of something there, and you can see why bands. There's a lot of bands have come from South End, a lot of small bands and big bands. So, and you can see why when you come here. It's kind of got that thing in the air. Can't really explain it, but
Yeah.
it's
It's still
inspiring.
on my bucket list to
All
visit
right.
one day.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, it is cool. It is cool. It is cool.
How would you say your hometown has kind of inspired you musically?
Um, I think on, physically, definitely, like that, sort of the landscape, like being by the sea. I think that's I don't know something about sea air.
Oh, I
Uh,
love it. Yeah.
Great, and I think that and the openness. Obviously, when you live by the sea, like it feels very open, and that kind of feels very. Um, what's the word? What the word? It feels very. Uh, um, it kind of unlocks your creativity. It's kind of that idea of having this big open space. So that's really cool. And I think as well, like because there's so much music here. Obviously, you've got bands like Nothing But Thieves and bands like the Horrors come from here, but there's also a lot of smaller bands kind of coming out South End at the same time. I think that that's really inspiring because it's so much music around you. It forces you to kind of get better and kind of there's all different things going on. You kind of like you want to get involved. So I think those two sort of things kind of really help us as a band. Yeah,
That's awesome. And how long
yeah.
have you all known each other since school days?
Yeah, so obviously the bass player Finn on bass is my brother, so I've known him for yeah,
Your whole life.
I've known him since before he was born. Um, Me and the guitarist went to school together, but we were in two different years, school years. But we were in various different bands, and we eventually like sort of started working together and realised we worked well together. And then obviously we just pulled out my brother on bass, and then we met Dave just through an advert on Facebook, and then the four of us got together about 4 years ago. It was 4 years ago in August. So we've been together for about four years and about 3 months. So it's
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think has been the most exciting moment so far for the band? At
Oh,
least for you personally.
that's a really hard one. There's been so many because see, like I don't when you're in a band, the highs are really high and the lows are really low. So when we have had highs, they've been like incredible life changing highs. I think our first headline show we did last year in our hometown. It was like that was incredible. I think that was the highlight because it felt like a real sort of moment where everything kind of came together, and seeing everyone in the same room. He'd see us, and it was one of those sort of like sort of really sort of uplifting moments. Really sort of like spiritually uplifting moments, and yeah, I'd say that one. That is my top moment so
Yeah,
far.
that sounds like a cool one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so the latest song, Criminals, I
yeah.
can definitely sense the bittersweet emotion in it. And you guys call it your best tune yet. Can you talk a little bit about why you consider it to be the best?
I mean, I think for us, I think for me, I mean, it depends who you ask in the band. I mean, the others might disagree. I said it was our best tune. I don't know what the other three think, but the reason why it's my favourite tune is because I think we really, it feels like the most honest song we've ever written, the most pure song, because obviously the feelings in the song and what the song talks about, the narrative of the song are so personal. And I really feel like with that song, lyrically, we captured it. And because of that, it feels most authentic. And because of that, when we play it and perform it and listen to it, it feels so us. And because of that, that's why I love it so much. And I've always found it's a really hard thing to do, because even when you're writing music, you try and be the most authentic version of yourself you possibly can be in a particular song. But it's really hard to do sometimes, because it's, trying to dig deep is really hard. And if that song, it just came naturally, and it wasn't hard, but it kind of came out naturally. It came together really naturally. And because of that, I think that's why I love it so much, because it's just so natural, and it's just so gentle, and it just works, and that's why it's my favorite song.
Yeah, actually, when I was listening to it, I could kind of picture it being played in a movie during like the pivotal moments, like the very emotional section of the movie,
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's kind of got that kind of, it's a very dramatic song. Very dramatic song. I can see what you mean. It could really, I could see that as well. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I love it. So, what else do you guys have coming up?
Well, obviously this year's been really hard. We started off the year optimistic, like let's go, and obviously things out of our control. The world ended for about 6 months, and so the only thing we could do was kind of just write as much as we could, become a better band, and record. And so at the moment we're sitting on a lot of new music. So I think the plan is we've got another song that we're really excited about, which could become our best song ever when we put it out. I might change my mind, but this next song I'm really proud of. We're just finishing that off, and hopefully at the beginning of next year we'll put that out. And we've got some other songs we're going to put out as well shortly after that. So I think the plan at the moment is just while the world kind of heals itself, is just, because we can't play live really, it's just to kind of keep, putting statements out there, and putting music out there. And I think that's kind of the plan at the moment. That's what we're aiming for.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you a couple of questions to kind of get a sense of your musical background. What was your first concert you ever attended?
Well, obviously for me in the band, the first concert my dad took me to see Peter Gabriel when I was 7.
Oh, nice.
And that was a moment. That was a weird moment for me, because I remember going to that gig, and even though it was a long time ago, I remember sitting there and watching that, and then that was the moment I realised I want to do this. It was like a real sort of moment of clarity. I was like, this is what I want to do. But yes, I was 7. That was my first concert. I'm not quite sure what their first concerts were. I think I'm not sure, but for me, it was that gig, and that's a very important date for me. Yeah.
That started it all.
Yeah, that was the beginning. That was the moment.
Very cool. Who do you consider to be like the best frontman or frontwoman?
Oh, that's hard. That's just because obviously I'm obsessed with front people, because I just think there's something really mesmerising about someone standing at the front of the stage. And
you gotta be commanding and
exactly. And not only is their job to sing and whatever, they've also got to kind of bring everyone in as well. It's just if to kind of be like the preacher at the front. It's really hard. So
many.
There's just so many. That's like trying to choose. It's like I don't know. Mine's quite. I guess mine's. I mean, behind you. I mean, that's
that's one of the top runners.
that's like the top. I mean, I think this is quite a controversial choice, but for me personally, this is my Irish roots talking. But I think for me, just from what people think of his politics, what people think of his whatever. But for me, I think Bono is the one for me that just nailed it. He just. I think when I saw U2 when I was about 13 at Wembley in London, and I was really far back. I was like row Z100, you know, right back at the, you know, top tier, right at the back. And he was about this big, but I still felt like I was being hugged. And it was just this moment of like, wow, how can someone, one human being, you know, take, you know, 80,000 people and sort of bring them in, you know, into their head. And so for me, that moment was like, I think that's the goal. If you can do that, then you can do anything. So I think, yeah, controversial, but the B-man for me.
Yeah, you got to be able to reach every single person in the crowd, you know.
Yes, that's the goal. That's what you got to be able to do. That's it.
Yeah. So like, even though you're in the way back, you felt like you were in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I felt like from the minute he walked on, I was like, "You've got me." I don't know. It's just this metaphorical arm reaching out kind of thing. It just pulled me in. Yeah, I mean, that's a hard thing to do, and you know, there's so many great frontmen, and women, but for me, that was just the moment that kind of was like, you're the one, you're my number one. But there's so many. I mean, Freddie, and he does the same thing. It's that, you know, you watch him at Live Aid. It's that kind of reaching out, you know, pulling, you know, not only people there, but also all the people watching at home on TV at the time. Like, you know, it's just, that's another level of just godness.
Exactly.
You know.
And last question, what's currently, like, what band are you currently listening to a lot these days?
I've been listening to a lot of that sort of, in terms of bands, I kind of had a sort of 180 swing on the 1975. I used to hate them. I really didn't like their stuff. and then their last sort of 2 albums kind of flipped me around. I was like, I'm loving this. But I've been into a lot of sort of solo artists as well. Like, I've been really getting into Phoebe Bridgers. I loved Punisher. I loved Punisher. Oh, I loved Punisher. That was
just how much you loved it.
Yeah, so much I loved it. I just dropped this pen in my hand. You know, that's how much I love that album. But yeah, so they're the two sort of artists and bands I've been really sort of like getting into the last 6 months have really kind of pulled me in, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, 1975. I remember they were, at least in the States, they were kind of underground for a little bit with Strong Chocolate, and then I don't know, the past few years they've kind of blown up.
I know. They just, it was almost like they're like this sort of like indie sort of like almost like kids pop band for the first album, and then sort of second album, third album, they kind of just turned everything around, and it's weird. I mean, that hats off. If I was wearing a hat, I'd take my hat off, because like, you know, to be able to do that, like, it's really hard, I think, as an artist. Once you've established yourself, what you are and what you do, it's really hard to kind of change people's opinions of you. And for someone to do that, it's quite an impressive thing to do. And the way they chat, you know, here, like, the media hated them, you know, really hated them. They found you know, and just now the media loves them. So it's almost like to change people's opinions like that is really hard. So anyone who does that, you know, wow, that's impressive. Whether I like you or not, I think that's such an incredible thing to do. So,
yeah. I hope that they're staying true to themselves, though, and not just changing to get approval.
I mean, for me, if they're not keeping true to themselves, I think their music's better now. So I think, you know, if they don't like it, I don't care. I love it. So, you know, that's all that matters.
Right.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, is there anything else you wanted to mention about the Trusted before we sign off?
No, just Merry Christmas from the Trusted.
Oh yeah, thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. You know, it's been a strange one this year, but yeah, all we can say is have a good Christmas from us.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for having us. Yeah, and thanks for chatting to me. Yeah, and yeah, thank you very much. So,
it's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
Take care.